Hey there, gang. It is time for another comic book unboxing video. I have a short box of comic books here, but I have no idea what is actually in this box. I'm not the one who parsed these books and stuffed them in here for me to work on. So what I'm going to find will be as much a surprise for me as it is for you. Who knows? Could be almost anything. So good opportunity for you to kind of kick back, gawk at some cool old comic books, whatever they may be, and to just sort of reminisce. Rather it's through listening to me yak for the next 30 or 40 minutes or participating in the comments section below. So if you like comic books, stick around. We're going to have some fun. Hey there, buddy. Welcome to Shanghalla. My name is Duke, and this is an unboxing video. So please do like, share, subscribe, comment, do all the groovy things, and do stick around until the end of the video for the double extra super top secret password that you need to enter our great subscriber giveaway contest. It's nothing super valuable. They're all duplicates from my own personal collection, but just a little thank you. So anyway, let's not waste any time. Let's jump right to it. Oh, I got to get Stan in place. Hopefully I've got him right there and not too far off the screen. All right, let's see what we've got. All right, Stan, we're doing okay. They're not books you wrote, but they're books that you were, at least in theory, still editing. A little glare on these bags, but I'll try and, as we go along, tip them so that you'll be able to see them a little better. Here's Avengers number 56. Little tear up here at the top of the spine, but all of the Avengers from this era are highly collectible, much sought after. Great John Buscema artwork. Here's number 46 with Giant Man getting small. Ant-Man is back. The Agony and the Anthill. And ooh, look, Whirlwind. Here's number 45. Blitzkrieg in Central Park. That's the Super Adaptoid. Looks like we've got an arrival date stamped here on the cover, but otherwise looks in pretty nice shape. Number 32, Sign of the Serpent. That looks like some Don Heck artwork. I like Don Heck's earlier work. I like him on the romance and the other kind of things that he did before superheroes were pretty much all that was left for him to work on. And I think Don Heck is one of those artists that in his later years, it's like he was working on muscle memory. The stuff was kind of static. So when I was a kid, I didn't like Don Heck at all, but as an adult, I've really grown to appreciate his earlier work. Here's number 49. Mine is the Power. That's obviously Magneto. This is a fun book. Oh, and look, we've got both of them. Wow. You don't often see both of them together, and you don't often see them in high grade like this. Usually when you get them, they're kind of beat up. This one also has an arrival stamp here. But that's Brother Power the Geek, a Joe Simon creation. Kind of a hippie culture overview written by what was then probably a 60-year-old Jewish guy. That's number 1. This is number 2. And that is the complete series. I think DC canceled this really even before they got the sales numbers in for number 1. But anyway, that's a neat little oddity to add to your collection if you don't already have it. It's kind of batshit, but there you go. Captain Action, this is cool. If you don't know, Captain Action was an action figure that was available in the late 60s. This was like 1967, I think. This was actually written by Jim Shooter, who was probably about 14 or 15 at the time. But it was based on that action figure. And the deal with Captain Action is you would get the action figure, and then you could buy all kinds of different costume packs. I think one of them was, in fact, Superman. I think there was a Batman costume, Captain America, different things, soldiers, firefighters, whatever. And there was AB there, that's Action Boy, his sidekick, who came in similar figure plus costume fashion. Captain Action wasn't really on the marketplace all that long. This is number 1, this series only lasted like 5 issues, which, again, wasn't much longer than the toy was around. But if you ever see a Captain Action figure on eBay, snap them up. I definitely would like to have a Captain Action figure. They were gone and a thing of the past by the time I came along in the mid-70s. But there you go. So that's an early toy adaptation. Pretty neat. Here's another one, another issue 1. Here's an Adventure Comics. As you know, I am a huge fan of the Legion of Superheroes. There's my flight ring to prove it. This is a spotlight on Chameleon Boy's story. He has an, well, at first unrequited love affair with a princess from another dimension. It is eventually requited. Spoiler warning. But then we never see her again. This is the second part of the classic Mordru introduction storyline, 369 and 370. In this one, these four, Superboy, Mon-El, Duo Damsel, and Shadowlass, are trapped in the past in Smallville alongside Pete Ross and Lana Lang as Insect Queen, being pursued by Mordru the Merciless. Great Kurt Swan art in this. Here's a pretty nice condition Aquaman number 40. That should do quite well on eBay. Love the little hatch marking here, the little scratchy to kind of make it look like she's a figure in the ocean currents. There you go. That is Mira, by the way. Here's the Atom, introducing Major Mina, a Mina bird who was a major threat when you're only 6 inches tall. Pretty much all of Atom's, foes were, all of his predicaments were, hey, if you grow to your 6 feet height, that threat won't really be such a problem to you. That is issue 37. I think that's the last issue. I think after this, the title became The Atom and the Hawkman. 39. I think, was the first one 38? I forget. Or was there an Atom 38 and this is the first issue? I forget. I'll have to look it up. I'll pop it on the screen below. It's one of those things I know, but I've forgotten. But you basically had two low-selling titles, The Atom and the Hawkman, and so they merged them together into one title, The Atom and the Hawkman. Here's number 41. And I haven't read a lot of these, but mostly they each had half the book, but in a lot of them they teamed up together, which it wasn't a particularly natural pairing by any means. Here's a Fantastic Four number 76. So Stan, there's another book for you. You definitely wrote that one. This one's very popular. Got an arrival stamp, but the cover is pretty nice. Little tanning down here at the bottom and along this side. But generally, that's a hard thing to find in really high grade because this white ages, without the benefit of cover ink on top of it to sort of protect it from the elements, as it were. So that's with Spider-Man, Thor, and Daredevil. That is a popular issue in the back issue market. Here's number 71, a little bit more of a run issue. What we call just a standard issue doesn't have any major historical significance, no first appearance. It's not a quote-unquote key. Here's Fantastic Four number 70. Number 69, By Ben Betrayed. The Thing is about as big as that building, though. That's a tiny little building. Love the look on Ben's face here. This is number 68. Got a big old subscription fold right here. Somebody's written their initials, KB, on the book. I wonder if that's a relative of the infamous BB that we've seen in recent videos. Here's number 62. One Shall Save Him. There's Blastar on the cover. 56, Claw. Is that the first appearance of Claw? Also has a big old subscription fold. So with that, it's hard to get this much above a 4.0, and this is probably going to be closer to a 3.5. Also with an arrival date here, August 15 received. So it's got a November cover date, but it was on stands in August. The cover date, and I hate, and most websites do this, but I hate when they do a timeline by the cover date, and they'll say, this happened this month, this happened that month. Wikipedia, in particular, does it. And it's month-by-month listing of things that happen in the comic book industry. If you go to Wikipedia and you look up, comics in 1965 or whatever. I don't know if this is a 65 book off the top of my head, but it might tell you that whatever events happened in this book happened in November of that year. Well, no, they happened in August. The cover date isn't an on-sale date; it's an off-sale date. That's when the retailer, or not the retailer so much as the distributor, was supposed to pull the book. That's when it went off sale. So that when the distributor, the guy running the truck or whatever, came in, went to the stand, dropped off the new books, it's November, so he'll pull everything with a November date on it. And eventually that was too confusing for some of them, so they went to that color thing where they spray painted the top of the books with a certain color, and the color told them what they were supposed to pull off that week or that month. So here you go. There's number 47. That's a fairly early issue. 53, early appearance of the Black Panther. Is that like his second, I think? Second or third? I forget. 81. There's some Crystal. Wyatt Wingfoot. Guest starring Wyatt Wingfoot. As if he was a draw. As if kids were everywhere were going, ooh, I have to pick that up. It's got Wyatt Wingfoot in it. Here's Doctor Strange number 173 with some Dormammu, big head Dormammu. Green Lantern number 61. Green Lantern. The whole necessary imperfection in the ring, making him powerless to everything yellow. 63. Kind of a ridiculous setup. Dry up and die. Oh no. Global warming. 65. Climate change. Look, the sun has turned into a red giant. Here is Green Lantern in the year 5708 AD, except there's another thing that bugs me. It should be AD 5708. Now, granted, today we use CE and BCE, Common Era and before Common Era, but as you probably know, BC stood for before Christ originally, and AD stood for Anno Domini, which is Latin for in the year of his dominion. So you wouldn't say 5708 in the year of his dominion. It was in the year of his dominion 5708. Him being, of course, Christ. So it should be AD 5708. And you would think that Julius, was this edited by Julius Schwartz at this time? I can't remember. But Julius, at least, should have known better. But anyway, anytime you see a date and then AD, it's wrong. Even if you see it carved into the cornerstone of a building, still wrong. But 5708 CE, Common Era, that would be correct. Here is Green Lantern number 67. This time the opponent is green, not yellow. What's up with that? Doesn't seem to be treating Hal any better, though, does it? Hawk and a Dove. Short-lived series by the great Steve Ditko. I don't know if he worked in the last couple issues. I think this was co-written by Steve Skeets, or was it Denny O'Neil? Not sure which. This is not a Ditko cover, I don't believe. This looks like a Gil Kane cover, maybe? Not sure. Here's Journey into Mystery number 125. Thor, that's a popular issue. Very good. All of those should do quite well on eBay. Here's Journey into Mystery number 123. 122 with the short-lived Pop Art Productions logo when Stan Lee was a little embarrassed by, of course, people looked askance on comics as just kid stuff and juvenile literature. So he was trying to grab hold of the zeitgeist at the time, or zeitgeist, I guess I should say correctly, where, what's his face? I want to say Liechtenstein, but that's a country, not a person. I don't want to say Roger Lichtenstein, but I don't think that's right either. I know he was doing the very famous and highly lucrative artwork based on old comic book panels. And so pop art was becoming a thing. So Stan Lee thought that he could dress up, get a little more respectability by calling it Marvel Pop Art Productions. But the fans hated it. And that logo only lasted for like 3 months before it was back to Marvel Comics again. Journey into Mystery number 120. Here is number 117. Into the Blaze of Battle. What does this say? Newsstand, April. So again, this was on the newsstands in April with a June cover date. Number 109 versus Magneto. Even in this grade with all of these spine ticks, this is probably going to be about a 4. Maybe a 4 or 5. I'll have to take a look once I get it out of the bag and do an actual official grading. That'll still be a pretty popular issue on eBay, I should imagine. Should do well, even in the low grade, because of the Magneto. And I think this is the first appearance of the Grey Gargoyle. You don't see much of the Grey Gargoyle these days. I know him better as an Avengers villain rather than strictly a Thor villain. Rawhide Kid, real hard job to sell Western books, whether it's eBay or whatnot or anywhere else, which is too bad. They're really great books, but I think most of the Western fans are kind of dying out. and there's nothing really pulling them back in. Not brand Echh. This is something else, although this issue's in, looks like it's in pretty good grade. So this one might do well. This series lasted about 15 issues. This was kind of an in-house satire with the Forbish Man, and the Forbish Man actually predates, Irving Forbish actually predates the Marvel superheroic universe. Stan Lee used that name in various pre-hero issues of Marvel Comics, different things. I forget exactly what. You can look it up. But this series usually doesn't sell that well. But in high grade like this, might do okay. Here's 7, The Origin of Superman. That's a fun one. That should do well. Mad Magazine, of course, famously did a parody of Superman. Here's Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. #2. Decent condition. That should be very popular. 5 with a white cover. Hard to get in high grade. This one's decent. Here's a Jim Steranko cover. Secret 6. This is a short-lived series. I think it lasted like 7 issues. And the deal was kind of like Charlie's Angels in that you had these different agents from different walks of life, although this was boys and girls. And none of them knew who the leader was who it would contact them and send them on missions. It was Mockingbird, I think was the name. And supposedly Mockingbird was supposed to be one of them in secret. And so you had to keep guessing who was Mockingbird. But the series only lasted 7 issues. And then in the mid to late 80s, when Action Comics became an Action Comics Weekly, an anthology title, they brought back the Secret 6 as an ongoing feature. If I remember right, it had art by, who's the guy who worked a lot with Mark Avenia? Dan Spiegel, that's it. Dan Spiegel. Always liked his artwork. And I think, if I remember correctly, that series revealed which one of them actually was Mockingbird. But you never did find out in this original series. But anyway, it's worth your time to check it out. It's only 7 issues. It's pretty easy to put together, and they don't run for that much. Because it's a non-superhero thing, these books will probably go for, if they hit that $10 mark, I'll be lucky. They're in pretty decent shape, so maybe they'll go 10, 12, 15. But they're just as likely to go for $4 or $5. So what do we got? 5, 6. So you've got everything. What did we have here? 4, 2. So if you bought all of these, you would still need 1, 3, and 7. Anyway, Showcase presents Johnny Double, Born to Trouble, Johnny Double. So that's a cool thing. Kind of a one-off. I don't think we ever saw much of Johnny Double after that. It was kind of like a poor man's Human Target, if I remember correctly. This, however, this is a big deal. Now, granted, it's a Western again, so it's hard to really sell this in the current market. But Batlash, and this is the first appearance of Batlash, who would get his own series, which I think also lasted like 7 issues. The neat thing about this, though, is it was written by, and I'll mess up this name, Sergio Aragonés, who you probably know for his illustrations in Mad Magazine and as the creator of Gru the Wanderer. He actually wrote this series, or at least plotted it. Someone else might have actually scripted it. But yeah, Sergio Aragonés created Batlash. And it is funny that in all these years, even when we've seen Gru team up with, Tarzan and who else? The Punisher. There have been a lot of Gru team-ups. We've never seen a Gru Batlash team-up. I'd pay money for that. I would pay money. If we could get Dark Horse, who does most of the Gru books when Sergio and Mark consent to do one these days, if we could get Dark Horse and DC to play nice with each other and do a Gru meets Batlash, that'd be pretty awesome. I'd buy that. How about you? Would you buy that? Did you even, until about 5 minutes ago, even know who Batlash was? Here's Iron Man number 10. Justice League of America number 55. First appearance of the adult Robin of Earth 2 of the Golden Age. Back when everything wasn't smooshed together into one continuity, one timeline on one Earth. When you had Earth 1 and Earth 2. This was Robin the Boy Wonder all grown up into a man. First appearance that way with a very Batman-inspired costume. Here's the Creeper appearing in Justice League number 70, issue 65, 63, 61. It's kind of a middling era for the Justice League. Justice League, the first several issues were great, and then it kind of coasted for a long time. Here's, I think this is the first appearance of Queen Bee, and a rare team-up with Batgirl with the Justice League. Here is, I forget who this villain is. It's pretty impossible, though. Kind of like old Bill used to sign his comic books BB in about 3 different places. We've got Impossible, Impossible, Impossible. Here's a Man Thy Name Is Brother, kind of an anti-racism story. I don't know if DC got any money from the UN to do this or not, but it feels that way. Go-Go checks. Gotta love some Go-Go checks. This one's a little lower grade, though. If I had like a batch of DCs in low grade, or Justice Leagues, I should say, in low grade, I would probably pull this out of the single stream, do it as a multi-book lot. 80-page giant. That's pretty cool. Mighty Marvel Western. Again, that'll be a hard sell. But you got Rawhide Kid, Kid Colt, and Two Gun Kid. Pretty much everybody. Marvel Tales. This was, well, eventually it would become a Spider-Man reprint issue, but in the early issues, and this is number 17, in addition to Spider-Man reprints, it also offered other things. In this case, it looks like Human Torch and Thor. And it looks like, as we continue here, we're going to have a few more to work on. And you might not think it, but these reprint issues, these early ones, like Marvel Tales, some of these are the first reprinting of these classic tales. And because the originals are so unobtainable, people do like to collect these. I mean, this is still, this is still Silver Age. It's an early, if not the first, it's a very early reprint. And of course, you would occasionally get stuff like, this Golden Age of Marvel Boy story. Marvel Boy, who would eventually become Quasar, and what Crusader, I think, was the name he used in between Marvel Boy and Quasar. Today we know him as Quasar, unless he's changed again. I don't know. But these, especially when they're in decent grade, these do quite well on eBay. And you wouldn't think it. You might think, well, it's just a reprint. But, again, it's a chance to get that classic stuff at a reasonable price. There's number 13, number 12, number 11. Marvel Superheroes was much the same thing. Marvel's Collector's Item Classics is what eventually, around issue 30-something, became Marvel's Greatest Comics. But this, I think, was the first of Marvel's reprint titles, and this one, as you can see, would reprint the original covers with lots of cover copy right on the front cover there. So you could see exactly what classic stories you were getting. Later on, they would go with just the regular kind of cover, and usually a new cover. Not always. Sometimes, like this one, it was a reprint of the original cover. But this one, again, focused on the Fantastic Four. And as Marvel's Greatest Comics was pretty much solely the Fantastic Four. We're getting towards the end of the box. And how's this for you? An 80-page giant. Now, this is actually 80-page giant, number 5. And you can look in the indicia where it will say 80-page giant, number 5. I think it's the first 15 or 16 issues were 80-page giant. And then after that, they continued the format in the regular numberings of various DC titles. So you would see Batman 80-page giant number 185. Well, that was the actual regular series. But if I recall correctly, there was a different editor. Whoops, Stan fell over. He's like, oh, get this DC crap away from me. It's making me sick. I seem to remember that DC had a different editor for these. So basically, I think it was Jack Schiff at this point on Batman would get the month off. And actually, DC didn't even publish every month back then. Most of its titles were like eight times a month. I mean, 8 times a month. That's what they are now. Except for Batman, who's like 72 times a month. Literally, like half the DC line is Batman books these days. But no, 8 times a year, most of the titles were. Oh, look at this. Captain Marvel #1. Sweet. And basically, there was a You probably already know this story. But Captain Marvel, of course, the original Captain Marvel is the character we know today as Shazam, published by Fawcett Publications, who went out of business, or at least out of the comic book business, in the early 50s, around 54 or so. And in the 60s, a fellow named Myron Fass, because the name wasn't being used, wasn't trademarked or copyrighted, came out with a new Captain Marvel character. And that one didn't last very long. But it sort of clued Stan Lee into the fact that, hey, we really don't want somebody else publishing a Captain Marvel comic book when we're Marvel. People are going to get confused, young kids or whatever. They're going to think they're getting a Marvel comic book when they buy this character called Captain Marvel. And it was around this time that DC was making some noise. Not really publicly. There wasn't really a fan press to speak of. But behind the scenes, Stan got word that DC, which actually had pretty much sued Fawcett out of business over trademark infringements, real or alleged. Hint, hint, alleged. I don't feel like Captain Marvel was ever an infringement on Superman. But Stan got word through the grapevine that DC was planning on bringing back Captain Marvel. That they were, I don't think they bought him outright at first. I think originally they leased the character or something like that. I'd have to look that up. But so they hurriedly rushed out this Captain Marvel book. Actually appeared in that title we saw a moment ago, Marvel Superheroes. And they rushed him into publication there, which I think kind of shows, it's kind of hashed together, this whole mythology. I don't know. I always find Captain Marvel kind of hard to sink into, whether it's Carol Danvers or Marvel. I think the best thing Captain Marvel ever did was die. That was kind of his high point. But anyway, and so that basically blocked, once they came out with Captain Marvel, initially in that title Marvel Superheroes, and then bringing him out in his own book. That pretty much blocked DC. And this was 68, and DC didn't eventually come out with Captain Marvel until like 1973, by which point they had to call him Shazam. They couldn't use the Captain Marvel name because this title existed. And actually, as I recall, it might even be that this title had got canceled, and then Marvel brought the title back because they got word that DC was going to bring back Shazam. So to keep him from calling Shazam Captain Marvel, because, under the thought that the title wasn't being used. Anyway, it's kind of convoluted. Don't take my word for anything. Look it up. But anyway, this was part of the big 1968 relaunch of a lot of the Marvel titles when the dual hero books were split into two. Once Marvel was no longer distributed by Independent News, which was a company that was owned by DC Comics. Not wholly owned, but a sister company anyway, with the same corporate ownership. And so once they were no longer under that thumb and could publish more books, they came out with a bunch of new books, new number ones. Anyway, we spent way too much time on that. There's number 12. And these stories are really kind of nondescript. There's number 11. There's number 6. Not a lot really happens. Well, I guess maybe a lot happens, but they're just not that exciting. To me, anyway. Number 3. Here's number 2 with a Super Skrull. That's cool. All right, back to DC. Here's Flash. We saw that issue number 183 in, if not this box, a recent box. There's 185. That's a cool cover. 186. I like that cover. Ghost Rider number 1. I think this is a reprint. I think this is a reprint of 50s stories. Or maybe it's original. Anyway, Marvel would reprint this series later on, but they would have to call the character Knight Rider because they had already introduced a new Ghost Rider. If you've seen the hell's his name? Vic? No, not Vic. Nicolas Cage. I was stuck on Luke Cage, and then I went to Vic, from Luke to Vic, because Victor Stone, Cyborg, I guess, black guy, I don't know. Took me a while. I'm old. It takes a minute for the synapses to fire in the right order. But anyway, the Nicolas Cage movie, the Ghost Rider movie. If you've seen that, the character that's played by what's his name there with the big bushy mustache? God, I'll never remember his name. That character is based on this one, the original Ghost Rider. All right, there's Daredevil 44. Nice jester. There's a photo cover. I don't know what it is exactly that Daredevil is swinging from, or the jester for that matter, unless there's some kind of helicopter or something above them. But anyway, there's more jester, number 46. 47. Brother, Take My Hand. Kind of similar to that. Oh, look, Stiltman, similar to that Justice League story. I love me some Stiltman. There's number 48. I do hope, I pray, I won't get it, but I pray that when Daredevil comes back in the MCU, that he faces off against Stiltman. Even if only like a cameo. And here is, I don't know who that villain is, but that's number 49. Feels like this video is taking a while. This one's going to be like an hour. I've been kind of gabby. Kind of laconic, too. I'm not really being real high energy. It's been hot as hell here today. You may hear the fan in the background. Tried doing a couple videos earlier without the fan, and I just about died. Here's number 50. 51. 46. This particular character... Wow, this is really low grade. I think this should go to multi-book lot if I can find something to pair it with. This character and some panels in here are actually copied in the Mexican Spider-Man comic book. I forget what issue number it was, but there's a lot of swipes in that book from other things. Daredevil number 21. Number 22, the Tri-Man lives. Try as he might. Here's the Impossible Fight, 32. Issue 33, Behold the Beetle. Not the most frightening villain of all time. What's the name that's written here? Hard to make out. It looks like Kiam, K-I-A-M, Broby, like Brody, only with a B instead of a D. I don't know. See, you can see it right there. 35. I think I'm going to do that with like my collection. Like before I die, I'm just going to sign my name on the cover of all the books, make it impossible for my wife to sell. Here's number 36. 39. That was in good shape. Better than good. Good is bad. Let's call it very fine. Number 40. 41. The death of Mike Murdoch, who was kind of the imaginary made-up twin brother. In a very soap opera-like fashion, he invented the persona of Mike Murdoch to kind of protect his secret identity. When he needed to, he would pretend to be his own twin brother. But Mike Murdoch eventually became real and appeared in some books as recently as a year or so ago, a couple years ago. There's the Jester again, 42. And here we go, sort of the answer to Spider-Man's Sinister Six. We've got Electro, who was in both groups, fighting Daredevil with his Emissaries of Evil. Boom, boom. Not a single reprint. Woohoo! Well, that's it, gang. That's that box. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you had fun. Anyway, I think the double super top secret password that you need, let's call it a Stan Booger. I don't think we've done Stan Booger yet, so leave Stan Booger in the comments down below, either as part of your regular comment or just all by itself. Just write Stan Booger and nothing else, and you are entered into the great 1,000 subscriber giveaway contest. So wherever we meet again, whether it's here on the YouTube or on the Twitter or Instagram or hell, even in real life. Until then, goodbye, good luck, and please be good to each other.